Get comfortable and make yourself a snack, friends, because this topic is a big one in terms of both importance and scope. At this point, we're going to assume you've already created or claimed all of your listings, verified them, and identified all of your departments. Today, we're going to talk about your business information, and for our on-screen examples, we're going to be looking at a dealership that has a bunch of departments in place: sales, service, parts, collision, and auto body, an in-house insurance agency, and even an in-house car rental. That said, we'll continue to obscure any personal information in the interest of data protection. Now, with properly nested departments, each can have different phone numbers, hours of operation, URL destinations, photos, posts, and offers, but still be connected to the dealership itself. We'll talk more about nesting in the future, but let's start by looking at the primary sales listing and some of the important information that's included to help optimize it for local search ranking. Remember when we discussed the various buttons visible within your SERP dashboard a few weeks ago? Well, in this case, we're going to click the Edit Profile button, which pulls up the business information entered for that listing. This includes your name, your business categories, a description of your business, and a bunch of other information that's pertinent to your dealership. So let's start with your name. Bottom line, keep it simple. From there, we move on to business categories, which consists of two levels: your primary category and additional categories, both of which help to define each listing in the eyes of Google. In the case of a dealership with multiple nested listings, each of those listings should have different primary categories selected. In this case, we can see that the sales listing specifies the primary category as Toyota dealer. That's perfect. And when we do a quick audit of other nested listings, we see auto repair shop for the service department, we see auto parts store for the parts department, we see auto body shop for the collision and auto body repair shop, we see car rental agency and insurance agency. As you can see, there's no overlap between those listings, which means this dealer is sending a very clear message to Google as to the unique specialty of each department listing, even though all of them are part of a larger business. Moving on to the additional categories, you can choose up to 9 to best reflect the offerings of each listing. In the case of this dealership's sales listing, you see our recommendations, which include car dealer, truck dealer, used car dealer, used truck dealer, car manufacturer, car leasing service, car accessories store, truck accessories store, and car finance and loan company. All of these are reflective of the offerings of that particular dealership. Yours might differ. Just choose the additional categories that best suit your listing and do the same for any nested listings. Now, we move on to description, which should be a short, honest representation of your business, highlighting your services, the geographic location that you serve, and anything that separates you from your competitors. You might have something similar on the About page of your website, but it's imperative that these two things are unique from one another so that Google doesn't flag it as duplicate content. For this reason, the description for each of your nested listings should also be different from one another. Opening date is fairly self-explanatory. Under phone numbers, you can list up to 3, but the number used during the verification process will be listed as your primary phone number. Keep in mind that if you make significant changes to your phone numbers, you may have to go back through the verification process. Also, the phone numbers provided for each of the nested listings should be unique, as Google's preference would be that they ring directly to the department specified. Moving on to website. This is where you'd include the URL to a specific destination on your website. For your primary sales listing, you'd want it to direct visitors to your homepage. For your other nested listings, just include the URL to whichever page you want to drive that specific traffic to. Under menu link for your sales listing, you should include a search results page where visitors can find a list of vehicles. That said, you might notice from these visuals that the URLs look a little different and that they don't just end in .com as you might be used to. Well, that's called a UTM. UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Module, and it's simply a means of identifying and categorizing your traffic within your analytics, so you know where the traffic is coming from and you can better assess the performance of your marketing efforts. And while we're not going to get deep into that right now, if you have any questions about it, you should reach out to your marketing team. You may notice that I skipped over a section called short name. This is simply an abbreviated version of your business name, 32 characters or less, that can be designed for ease of searching. Under location and areas, you have the means of confirming your physical address or changing it, noting that the latter may require re-verification of your GBP. The important thing here is to make sure that the pin is placed directly on top of your physical location as presented in Google Maps. And it's additionally important if you have a unique layout or parking situation at your dealership. Next, we have service area, which allows you to enter the surrounding communities your dealership aims to serve. Business hours is relatively self-explanatory, giving you the opportunity to set your standard open and close times for all 7 days of the week. You can also decide not to show your hours of operation at all, or list your business as closed, be it temporary or permanently. Below that, we have special hours, which is where you communicate any changes based around holidays, closing, or any scheduling changes from your standard business hours. Regular viewers of Wikimotive's content might recall seeing videos where we remind you of your upcoming holidays and walk you through the nuance of this process. Google also gives you the option to add more hours, but in our opinion, haven't done a great job of configuring options that are relevant to dealerships. That said, if any are relevant to you, feel free to set them accordingly. From there, we have the attributes section, which includes a number of ways to further identify your dealership through ownership and amenities, communicate social awareness through environment and accessibility, or to provide basic info that may be of further value to interested consumers regarding offerings, payments, planning, recycling, and service options. It all comes down to who you want to market to and helping Google to put you in front of them. Ultimately, all of the sections we just covered can be configured at the discretion of your marketing team. Just remember that each of your nested department listings should be uniquely configured to mirror the objectives of that particular listing. Anything less will lessen the efficacy of those listings. As we wrap up this episode on business information, we're going back to our SERP dashboard for a few more items. As you can see in this example, most dealerships include a link to help customers book appointments. To manage this, click Bookings and you can adjust the URL that link will point to. You'll also notice the option of adding a featured book button, which enables booking directly through Google as opposed to a website. But it hasn't reached the point of widespread integration and requires the integration of third-party tools, so I'm going to skip it for now. The inclusion of quality photos is an important step of optimizing any GBP listing and can be done through the Add Photos button. Of those, it's important to include your dealership logo as well as a wide shot of your exterior, flagging them as your logo and cover photo respectively, as they'll be displayed prominently. Listen, I know I covered a lot. Management of your dealership's GBP listings is time-consuming and heavily nuanced, and it's a big part of the reason so many store listings out there aren't properly optimized. But now that you have a better understanding of how to configure the business information within your various listings, next week we'll move on to department nestings so that you know how to link those listings together. In the meantime, be sure to connect with Wikimotive on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for more content like this designed to help you sell more cars.